Hello, everyone. I'm normally not a dark lip person, but I had this color and I wanted to see how it looked on. So, pardon me, I'm just experimenting a little bit. So, anyway, I was bored playing around and I had the urge to record because I don't do that enough. So, yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit judgy. And it's because of something I was actually watching on YouTube earlier. So I was watching some relatively popular YouTubers. Well, they're more popular than I am on YouTube, which doesn't say much cuz you can see my subscriber count. I don't hide it. But anyway, so I was watching these other people on YouTube and they were talking about education and what's wrong with schools, and things went all the way left. And I felt like there were some very important points that were raised in the conversation, and it could have been just a very good intellectual conversation, a community conversation, a national conversation that needs to be had. But I felt like some comments that were made in the chat section, as well as by one of the I guess panelists, you would call them. I feel like, well, yeah, I won't get into that, but one of the guests, the comments were really telling. So these people are talking about what goes wrong in schools, and meanwhile, comments are being made. So yeah, I'm like wondering if I should go into whatever. Comments were being made like, well, you should have thought about being a teacher, the salary before you became a teacher. So some of the people who were on this broadcast were actual teachers, and then some were parents, and then you had, people in the comment section watching the live stream. So, people actually saying that teachers shouldn't complain about their salary because they know how much they make going in. That tells me right away either this person who made that comment does not have kids, for some reason does not value kids, because you don't have to have kids to value the concept of them becoming educated and well adjusted and socialized properly so that they can be productive citizens. um but yeah, that comment was made, and it's kind of like, so let's unpack the flip side of that. So, if people who want to make money should not become teachers, that means that teaching jobs would be left to people who have no other choice. That's basically what, like felons. Do you want felons teaching children? Because if everyone chases the money, that means that no quality human, well, okay, you, just because you have a felony doesn't mean that you're not a quality person. People have a past, people make mistakes. There are people who get convicted of crimes they didn't commit. I get all that, I get all that, I get all that. But not allowing felons to screening for that sort of thing, particularly violent felonies, is generally a good way to keep certain things away from kids. And even with that in place, you still have people doing improper things with kids. So, like, do you really want people who can't get a job anywhere else around children? And not only just around children, but responsible for teaching them, spending like 7+ hours a day with them, teaching them the basics of like history, like how to function in society. Literature, you got that stuff too, and PE and gym and math. But like, school socializes you, whether your school did a great job or a terrible job. If we're sending kids to a place for a significant chunk of their day, and on top of that, when they get home, they're only awake for a few more hours before they have to go to bed, we should make sure that people are that we're attracting qualified people who want to work with kids. Not only that, but people who should work with kids to these positions. So that comment was just all kinds of backwards. And let me throw out this disclaimer because I know how people are. I'm not saying that parents aren't responsible for raising their kids. They absolutely are. Children should have a certain understanding and foundation before they go to school. However, we do not live in a perfect world. Not everyone's parents are perfect. Um and it is what it is. Teachers inherit that. And so you want someone who has the capacity to deal with that, someone who's being compensated to deal with that. And to do it from like a very compassionate standpoint, but who also like who's equipped mentally, maturity wise, experience wise, and in terms of just training to relate to younger people, to children, to students, to underage people of all ages. um School is not, it's not daycare, in other words. And even daycare, like, yeah, the society needs to value children more than it does. I digress. So anyway, there's that. And then this strange thing about, okay, so someone mentioned education in Japan. Now, I I've had the unique experience, or well, I'll call it unique. I'm not the only person in the world who's probably had this experience, but I've been to school in a couple different settings, and I've lived in several different countries. Um, some of those countries have had very efficient school systems. I will say that what is lacking here, several things are lacking here in this school, in our public school system, and the parents can't solely be blamed. Um, but structurally, what's lacking? Now, someone else did. One of the educators did raise a valid point that the people who are leading school systems, the superintendents, the school board directors, oftentimes have no experience in education, and they're corporate people that were hired through a very corporate process. Um, so there's that, but also when you compare to other countries that outpace us by far in education and have very skilled workforces, a byproduct of investing in education and structuring it, those systems are much more standardized than ours. And I'm not talking about testing. The tests don't do much here. So the part that needs to be standardized is what kids are learning, how they learn it, and not only that, but how students are sort of placed on certain tracks in school. So college should not necessarily be the only track, and it's not in other countries. There are skilled trades, there are arts, artistic programs, artistic tracks in certain countries. So students should be placed on a path according to their interest level and their aptitude, which means that we have to help kids early on find out what they're good at. But I say all this to say that in other countries, the system is much more structured. It's much more standardized in terms of the learning process versus the testing process. You can't just put all kinds of kids in all kinds of classrooms and all kinds of, like schools are getting all kinds of different incongruent investment levels where like some districts are spending $5 a student and some districts are spending 5,000 a student, and education isn't allocated equally. You can't expect all those kids to perform the same on a standardized test and attribute that to the kid's skill level or comprehension, or there are just too many other factors that go into that. And so one of the educators in this broadcast raised that point more generally, but then someone in the chat says, well, those places are dictatorships. No, they're not. No, no. Germany has a very specialized, very structured, standardized school system within each tract. And people are very skilled and they're very employed, and that economy is very strong and has been for quite some time since, like, like the World War II thing. All that went down in the aftermath, but they rebuilt themselves nicely. And even back then, the West was always was generally stronger than the East. For certain reasons, and that's one of them. Just like giving people the skills they need to make a living, and then like teaching them their job, what their vocation in society is, and then valuing it, because all these pieces make a society run efficiently, and people are able to earn a wage so that they can like live comfortably, peacefully, not be like on the streets, or not, not feel like they can't do anything with their lives because they don't understand calculus, or because they didn't do well in the SAT. So and then like the standards, another thing, the standards are so much higher. One of my friends in Germany, I met her when she was interning with my university, and this was back like before the tech thing took off, and she could code. Even though her major was business, I believe, she could code because she had to learn it, because it was a thing. And so she was interning at my university as an exchange student, and or not really student, like an exchange intern. A program that was through the schools, the universities. Um, and she's not only doing like office functions as her internship for, because my university was very big, it still is very big, and kind of parts of it are run like, not like a corporate, it's very highly structured and organized again. And so as are many, probably most universities, large universities. But so that was her job, her internship, like working within one of the departments there. And one of the things that she was doing was helping them update their website because she could code. Because go figure, school taught her that in Germany. Um, so yeah, it was disheartening to see someone refer to that type of system as a dictatorship, when the problem is that our system not only is underfunded, not only are the funds misappropriated and improperly allocated, or not efficiently allocated, and in some cases improperly allocated, but also yeah, the structure's just not there. Like there's nothing that's really parallel. Like sure, we have grade levels and things, but what's going on in the classrooms? That's not standardized at all. Um I mean, even though like, yeah, okay, so teachers are required to teach like the core curriculum or something like that, but I mean, and then when you factor in the charter schools, the magnet schools, the private schools, like it's a whole, well, private schools aren't public, but um it's a whole weird thing. And like how are we supposed to have accurate measurements for getting into college and preparing kids for college, um and ensuring they're prepared for college, if that's what we want to bank on in this society, and not like focus on skilled trades as much, which I think we should, because some people are just going to be good and more interested in doing skilled trades. But anyway, that's an aside. If we're going to make college the end all and be all, then, and I'm not even anti university, anti college. I think it's very valuable for experience, for networking, depending on where you go. Really anywhere, I guess, like for networking, for learning discipline, for being autonomous. Um, but even that, like we don't even really prepare kids for college, and then for that reason I felt like the first 2 years of college are a repeat of high school. So I actually tested out of a lot of those classes. I figured out how to um take CLEP exams, and I did some summer school, and like also did some, well, yeah, I won't get into all that, but I bypassed a lot of those first and second year courses because they were like stuff that high schools teach. So, and also like I tried to put more challenging courses and take challenging professors as well for those years, and for like really throughout. Um, so um I have a mosquito bite. Um anyway, so yeah, like I just thought it was quite telling um as to the state of education in this country, like the government is a huge problem, but then people, it's like a vicious cycle that feeds itself. People, yeah, like the general populace, I shouldn't say general, a huge chunk of the general populace does not value education the way they should. They think that, like, to set up a system where not only teachers, but like parents, communities, kids are placed, like the expectation is placed across the board that everyone is going to take school seriously, that everyone's going to have an equal opportunity to get educated, to find what works for them and to get educated in that someone would call that a dictatorship. Like, I mean, I liken it to when your parents are more structured, but then you might have a friend or someone at school, whatever, their parents like allow their kids to like drink and smoke and do all types of stuff at their house. I'm not saying that our schools are, I mean, that does go on in some of our schools, but that's just an example. I'll use another one. But somebody doesn't have a bedtime, they don't have to be home for dinner. Their parents, don't really care what they cook. Like, they kind of have to fend for themselves. There's food in the house, but the parents are like, get what you want, like, every day. Um, and the kids are like in middle school or something, then like that home isn't necessarily a free society. It's kind of a society without boundaries, without structure, and without direction. And the structured home isn't a dictatorship, it's just more organized, and people sort of have come to like a meeting of the minds, or at least like the expectation has been set of what the boundaries are, what the objective is in that home. Kids are to be healthy, they're to be well rested, which is part of being healthy. They're to get educated, they're to learn to be responsible adults. And in order to do that, you have to have some rules and boundaries. So yeah, this one is kind of organizing related, but not really. It's kind of just me babbling as well. Um, but yeah, like that was just kind of, I don't know. We gotta fix that. Um, yeah, we gotta fix that. I know that most parents aren't like that and really want their kids to learn. I know there are a lot of people who like legitimately just don't have the opportunity because maybe they're not in a good school district, or maybe the resources aren't there, or maybe the community involvement isn't there, because those things do make a difference in terms of schools. um but the parents are doing all they can. Now, we can't leave out that some parents are working two and three jobs, and especially like if you're a household that wants to move to like um a more competitive school district, which oftentimes is a school district that's receiving more tax dollars, which means that the property values are high, basically, because that's how schools are typically funded, public schools, through property taxes. Um, and so maybe you need to move into a more expensive neighborhood so that they're getting more tax dollars to the schools, but then you might have to get like a second, or your parents might have to get a second and third job to afford that neighborhood, quote unquote, comfortably. I mean, it's not necessarily comfortable because they're like working like crazy, and then they just like legitimately can't do much at home. But they want their kids like around the right people, or at least to have like more opportunity. And so, like, what do you do? That parent isn't really a bad parent. They're trying to like get their child around some people who can help them, and um where they'll be maybe, I mean, now with all these shootings happening, they're not, in the poor neighborhoods or the low income, the minority, they're not in those places, the school shootings, but I'm just saying, for sake of example, they want their kids to be safer. They want like their kids to be in a district where the teachers have like more certifications and qualifications, for example, or where, I don't know, like the sports team. I mean, yeah, I mean, but some people really do. A lot of people bank on their kids using sports to help finance their college, university. So maybe you're trying to get to where like the teams are better, or but ideally, like where the quality of education is going to be higher, and where they have more to invest per student. And you got to come up with the money somehow. So like you're working, and that leaves less time to spend with your child. So I'm gonna cut this video off here because it's 20 minutes, and I'm trying to do shorter videos. But yeah, that was just really alarming and telling, and just we gotta like expect more. And I don't mean like I mean like literally like Americans, because I've seen people from like all walks of life, even people from private schools, even people who went to school in like the districts where the tax dollars were higher. Let's say kids come out of school and they don't know anything, and it's the expectation, it's the lack of structure, it's the aversiveness to structure, and we got to change that, and we got to make education equal, or equally accessible. Obviously a person's motivation, and exactly what they want to achieve and all that, those are factors too, but we got to at least like give every kid a chance to learn something valuable that will carry them, into adulthood and help them to function well and to earn a sustainable living legally. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that. But yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble. If you got comments, leave them below. If you like more of these, just like random late Friday night rambling type videos, request more. Subscribe to my video, like, um, subscribe again, tell your friends, share my videos. I will see you in the next one. Take care and be well. Bye.